My name is Jorge Velasquez. I own a Peruvian restaurant in Pakistan Pie, Frederick, and also I own a Peruvian food truck. We got one truck, we got one restaurant, one truck, and doing my own beer now. We are partnered with Smoke Town, downtown.
The one here in Frederick?
Yeah, we're Frederick. So,
what kind of beer?
We have 4 beers. We got one made with purple corn, and then the second one is made with white corn, coffee, and passion fruit.
You're originally from Peru?
Original from Peru, 6 hours north of Lima, the capital.
Okay.
I live in this country for about 23 years.
When did you start cooking? What got you into food?
Because my family, I come from family have a restaurant in Peru, a small restaurant, a small Peruvian seafood restaurant.
Was it your parents or was it your grandparents?
My parents.
So your parents started it?
Yes.
So how did they get into cooking?
My mother, liked cooking, and they decided to open a restaurant. So when I came here, this country, the thing I know survive in this country is because the kitchen, because I come from my family. I used to, I work in a restaurant, and then I decided to go to school and one day to open my own restaurant.
No, so when you came here, you worked for another restaurant?
Yes, that's why I came Frederick, because I work for another restaurant in the area. And then I realized Frederick is beautiful city, beautiful town to build a family and how you open your own restaurant. So that's why it made me to open a restaurant here.
Where'd you learn to make drinks?
Taco Daddy. That's
taught you?
what's taught me everything I know today. So I started as a host, moved up to server, been bartending 1 year now, this past July.
Okay.
But I lived in New York for 3 years. That's where I went to school. I studied hospitality and tourism up there. So this is all my industry and what I'm passionate about. So that's why I'm glad to be moving up in there now.
How'd you end up in Frederick from New York?
Born and raised here, so then just left Frederick, went to school in New York, lived up there, and then pandemic happened. So then I've been back since.
What's your favorite drink to make?
What taco Daddy is you think margaritas, that's the most known thing, but I like just getting behind there, just creating anything, you're able to make new things, figure out people's palates, just have different things in the back of your brain, just be ready to prepare for whatever everyone wants to drink. Today we're doing our version of the painkiller. We call it the happy pill. It's just a good tropical sweet drink. Can't go wrong with it. We're making it with crankin rum, which is a very good spice rum.
Here in the quiet, where it's only you and I.
People talk about math being a universal language because it transcends verbal language, but I really think music is. I think music is something that everyone can relate to, right? It doesn't mean that everybody likes the same thing, but everybody can relate to that feeling of hearing something that just resonates with you. And I had this whole theory about how, on a molecular level, people are just vibrating, right? Because that's what molecules do. They just vibrate against each other. So I truly believe that sometimes you hear a song and whatever vibration is in that song just matches with yours perfectly. And so I think that's what keeps me coming back to it.
You're a reason to believe.
What was the one artist or band that really connected with you?
Early on, a lot of 50s and 60s doo-wop stuff, because my parents were both really into R&B from the 50s and 60s. So I listened to a lot of Sam Cooke, a lot of Otis Redding. And then from that sort of snowballed into me discovering the Beatles. And that was a whole new revelation, just hearing harmonies and melodies kind of intermixed and stuff. And then from there, I actually found Paul Simon, and that's been the major influence on me since.
It's so easy to lose faith.
Where'd you learn to play?
A church. Yeah, my parents were both lay pastors, which were pastors that also had other jobs. The first place I remember playing music was in the church. That was my parents' rule, is that if you're gonna play music, you're gonna play music for the church first, and then you can do that rock and roll stuff later. But first you gotta play hymns and stuff.
Sometimes love is as simple as this. You're a masterpiece to me. You're a reason to believe. In your eyes.
So you're self-taught.
To some extent, yeah. I started playing guitar when I was about 9 or 10. And again, it was the pastor of my church that showed me my first like 2 or 3 chords on guitar. I tried to take guitar in middle school for one day, and on the first day of guitar class, the teacher told me that my hands were too small and too fat to be an accomplished guitar player, so I should just not do that. So I left that class immediately and took home ec instead, and I've never taken a formal lesson since.
Leave you feeling like an open book in a restricted room.
So I started playing out when I was about 15. Yeah, my dad would take me to bars and shit, and like Bushwallers was the first place I ever played here in downtown Frederick. And they would let me play the open mic there as long as my dad stayed with me while I was there. And I mean, he literally had to like sit next to me while I played. My dad was like, "This is clearly your passion. This is clearly something you're good at. So I'm gonna do whatever I have to like support you in it." And like he can't play a note, but he really appreciates music. So like, it was, I'm very blessed in that regard to have a parent that was like, "All right, man, like I don't understand what you're doing, but I'm at least gonna back you on it."
You're a masterpiece to me. Oh. All right. So, thank you. I wrote that about my partner. She's amazing. She's a wonderful lady.